Welcome to Range World, the podcast where life, development, leadership, growth, intentionality, and experience come into balance right before your very ears. And now, here's your tour guide into Range World, the president of Get Life in Balance, Rain Kansman.
All right, welcome back to Rain's World, and I have Mr. Steve Dunlap with me today from Little Rock, Arkansas. Steve is, let me give you a little information on Steve. His quote is value for your life training solutions. That's the quote for his business. He's still consulting after all these years. His roles as a husband, father, grandfather, chief flavor master with Oni Giggins, sauces, and Mr. Mostly Retired. 35 years of experience in all phases of distribution industry. His certifications include Franklin Covey Time Management, What Matters Most, which is going to be the integral part of what we're talking about today. He's also certified in DDI, Targeted Selection, Coaching and Maximizing, John Maxwell, Coaching, Speaking, Leadership Training, Disc Consultant, and the Kansas City Barbecue Society as a certified judge and a certified table captain. Positions held: Dara County Director of Marketing and Training from 2012 to 17. Cisco Corporation Director of Regional Training in Southeast Region and VP of Marketing and Training Cisco Southeast Florida from 1982 to 2012. And during his time with Cisco, Steve and I worked together on a lot of projects. This is my good friend, Mr. Steve Dunlap. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. And after that introduction, I'm going to have to recalibrate myself because that sounded really good.
Yeah, well, it is. And you say mostly retired, but you have all this stuff.
Well, the mostly retired means I can pick and choose.
Yeah.
First of all, and number two, I don't go out and I'm not actively out there trying to build the business, but I do have some customers that come to me, once, twice a year, and I'll do things for them. So that's kind of the mostly retired part.
That's the best way to be. So let me get you started on and again, Steve, a lot of work around values, governing values, time management. And we're going to kick it off with this quote, beginning with the end in mind. So what do you mean by that, Steve? Beginning with the end in mind.
That is that came right from Stephen Covey's book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that is habit number 2. And it really talks about squaring your inner thought and your outward behavior and how it results in public and personal integrity. Mm-hmm. And to set this thing up and setting with the end in mind is a very important part of it. It can be it's important in the fact that you have to know where you're going if you're gonna map the route to get there. Yeah. So the way he explains it is just to visualize. I want to run you through this real quick. He would always talk about a visualization of you're riding in your car and you're dressed nice and you're going down the road and you're following behind other cars and you pull in and you park and you start to go in and you realize you're at a funeral home. So obviously you're going to a funeral and you go in and you sign the book and you walk in with the rest of the people. And as you get up to the coffin and you look, it's you. It's your funeral.
Wow.
And at your funeral, you've got it planned. You've got some family there to talk about you. You've got friends to talk about you, to talk about what type of friend you were. You have people from your workplace to talk about how it was to work with you. And you've got religious leaders to talk about, your church-going experiences. And so as these people one by one are getting up there and talking about you, what do you want them to say?
Yeah.
What is it you can imagine them saying? And, what'd you like for them to say about you? What kind of a husband or wife, friend? What kind of father? What kind of mother? What kind of cousin? How were you to work with? Did you encourage people? How did you participate in church? How was your religious affiliations? And if you go through this visualization in a very serious frame of mind, you'll touch some nerves. Okay, and what you should touch, just for a moment, is some of your deep fundamental values. So what you've done is you've established brief contact with what your inner guidance system is. And, we talked about this before when we talked about governing values and identifying those things. But to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means that you know where you're going, so that you better understand where you are now, so that the steps you take are always in that right direction.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we don't take the time to think about is that we're heading real fast towards that day.
Yeah.
All of it. And it gets here a lot faster than we thought. Because I can remember back in the day, back when we were young bucks working with Cisco,
right?
And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
Right.
And now as you turn around and go, well, there's another year.
Right.
And, now as you go around, you look at people leaving. And I think when we talked a couple of weeks ago, I'd just gotten back from a funeral for my 99-year-old aunt.
That's right.
Who outlived everyone in the family. And the opportunity to get up in front of a group, which was a small group, but at 99, there's not a lot of people left.
Right.
So there's a small group, but to be able to hear the words that people talked about her as to how they impacted her, and what kind of legacy she left. She didn't die rich.
Yeah.
She didn't die with a lot of money or anything, a lot of possessions. But when she left a full life.
Yeah.
So we're heading there. And if you think about starting with the end in mind, that's just defining in your mind what you want at the end, what you want that end to look like.
That's right.
So that's begin with the end in mind.
I like
I've
that.
used that, since I first read that, I've used that with a lot of things. And if I was putting together a training program, I would start with the end in mind. And for me, in that particular training program, the end in mind was, what do I want them to walk out knowing?
Yep.
Now, what do I want them to walk out to be able to do? And so a lot of things that had a lot of effect on things I do. I always start at the end and I build back into the front.
I love that. I love that. So one of the analogies I use, and maybe it's because I come from the North and you've spent most of your time in the South, so this probably didn't occur to you, okay, let's imagine that you're looking at a clean snowfield, and that clean snowfield is your life. How are you going to make the most efficient line through that clean snowfield? Are you going to look at your feet or pick a tree on the other side? And that's the end in mind, picking that tree on the other side. Most people get that. Oh, I'm going to pick a tree, but most people go through their life looking at their feet. Yeah. Right? Taking care of this emergency, going after this piece. Yeah. So how does one get started on that journey, Steve?
Well, you've got to start at the end in mind.
Yeah.
You need to take time and identify those things that are most important to you.
Yeah.
Those values, and Hiram Smith liked to call them governing values, because whether we realize it or not, they drive us. They drive our actions, and they can drive your actions good, bad, right, or wrong. That's why it's important to identify them so that you can somewhat control them.
Right.
And we talked about yesterday about some of those values being hard work, honesty and integrity, religion, family, success is in there. Yeah, making money's in there. Mm-hmm. And that's all important, but you've got to identify what is most important.
Yeah.
And then you go a step further because you prioritize them. You know, what's most important. If you looked at my list of values right now, number one is my religion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number two is family.
Yeah.
Above all else. So I've got and the reason I feel like you need to prioritize is because you're going to come to a point in your life where you have to make a decision between this and that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're prioritized, then you know if you got to choose between family or success, then with family being up there as the top, then it makes it easier for you to make that right choice. Because the end result is when you get to the end, it's family.
Yeah.
You know, family's got to be there if that's what you value. Because
Yeah.
we all get caught up in hard work, you know, the busyness of life. We all work really hard to climb that ladder of success. And for so many of us, we spend a lot of time doing activities and doing this work,
Right.
climb, do whatever it takes. Only when you get to the top, you find out your ladder's leaning against the wrong building. And how many people have you known that way?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, they drive, and they get to the top and they still got that empty feeling.
Yep.
They still got the empty feeling. They realize, well, I've gotten here, but this doesn't really feel my need. And what it's not doing is feeling that that's value. Yeah.
So I would, I guess for me, I get that. I'm thinking, if I'm at my funeral and I can still hear what people are saying or what I hope people are saying, you know, I would certainly, rather than somebody saying, well, Rain made plan 6 years in a row versus Rain was a leader that I could count on being there for me all the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, nothing away with success, nothing to downgrade the fact that I made plan, but wow, you know, there's a whole different feeling between a value and that goal. And what you're talking about is that we need to align those.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And before you can be a leader of people, you need to demonstrate personal leadership, and that you need to lead yourself.
Yeah.
And only when we attain all those traits and those habits can we really help others. Can we lead others, I think.
Well, and I wish a lot of people out there would hear that from you, Steve, because I agree with it too. But there seems to be a lot of, oh, did you forget you were a person in a leadership role when you did that? Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's important. But the other part of that is I'm looking at your logo there, life and balance. And when you identify all these things and you're able to move in those directions with all the goals and objectives you set, then what you end up doing is living a life more in balance.
Yeah.
And that's what so many people don't get. And when they get to climb that ladder of success and they get there, that's the part they're missing.
Yeah.
The balance in their life.
That's true. That's true. So I have one more question on this, my friend.
Okay.
You've already started down this avenue, but what benefits will I receive by following this process, beginning with the end in mind?
Well, for one, you can start every day and plan your day based upon the priorities of reaching the end. Okay.
I like that.
Everything is steered towards, everything I do every day helps me reach that end in mind, which are my values, my governing values. So, and it does roll down into time management, you know, and we'll probably hit on that. But if I have those in mind and those goals in mind through my values, it makes it a lot easier for me to set my goals and my objectives and prioritize my time based upon the end.
Yeah.
Beginning with the end. And one of the things I know, and I know you talk about this a lot too, but at the end of the day, every day, and I would have a list of things to do, and I would, you know, number them A1, A2, A3, because that worked for me.
Right.
Everybody's got to have a system to work for. But at the end of the day, if I accomplished the most important things, which in my mind helped me to reach those goals, then I could really have a bigger claim of inner peace.
Yeah.
All right. So here's where I want to be. Here's my day. And the closer at the end of the day I'm accomplishing this to this, then I can have a claim of inner peace.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit. Plus, you've always you got the roadmap, you got the direction, because life is
a lot of distractions.
A lot of distractions. A lot of distractions.
So one of the other things that you and I've talked about before, and this just popped up because of your what you were saying there, is one of the other Covey things he has this matrix, and talks about most people go after the thing that's screaming the loudest, what's urgent, what's screaming, right? Versus what's important. Right. And if we make the decision to go after what's and sometimes you have those that are both, right? And that's an A1 priority, but going after what's important versus just going after what's screaming or urgent will help you achieve that inner peace more often than not. And I like that tie-in.
Oh, absolutely. And identifying that matrix is very, very important, because you can, in your mind, as you think about the things that distract you in the day, you can go, okay, this really goes here. This isn't, just because the beeper went off. I remember when Cisco first got beepers, and that was the strangest thing in the world, because a salesman would be in front of a customer that is their biggest customer, but their beeper goes off and they jump up and leave, and you're going, whoa, guys, remember, you've got to prioritize this, and you can't be a slave to that. Or the phone rings, the phone's going, answer me now. I'm important. But you've got somebody sitting in front of you that really what you're doing is more important.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely correct on, identifying those with the matrix. And it's the same thing as the rocks in the jar.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep, the rocks in the jar, and then you put the pebbles in. And the pebbles are those insignificant, they're more of the urgent distractions. But if you take care of the big rocks, which is family, religion, those different things, then you're always going to have them taken care of, and the rest of it will fall in. It just will. So, but you got to recognize it.
That's right. So I know that you're important to me, my friend, and I'm really happy that we discussed this topic, because I think it benefits people, not just in a leadership role, but I think that self-leadership you talked about earlier, it helps you get to a place, if I'm in control and I'm more efficient, then I can be more effective for others in that servant leadership role as we go through too, right?
And I think it can have a calming effect on you. Instead of you being harried and looking wild all the time, people come in and they go, this guy's got it together. Yeah. This person seems to be able to handle all this. Of course, they don't see your feet moving under the desk or anything, but still, I don't know. It's like the ducks swimming on top of the water, and they look very serene. When below, they're paddling like crazy to keep afloat. But at any rate, I think people recognize and they can appreciate.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you again for sharing with us.
Hey, thanks. I just got to tell you, if you go through this, then when you set your goals, you're going to be setting goals that really matter to you, and that's the important part. And based on the goals, which are goals are open-ended, they're kind of general, and also longer term. And your objectives are the things, are the steps that get you to those goals, and that's what makes it all work out together. And I would just urge anyone that pick up and read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yeah. Book's been out a long time, but it's been out a long time. It's been reprinted because it's good tenets of life.
Yes, it is.
And my one thing is one of the things we're missing in this world today, when we look around what's going on, is values. Is people don't know what their values are.
Yeah.
And we're not teaching values to our kids and their successive generations. Because, you know, what I learned from my aunt was what she learned from her folks and what they learned from their folks. And those are things that are handed down through the generations. And we just have not done a good job at it in the last number of years of making sure our children, that we're passing on those important values, because we're sure missing that nowadays.
And it's showing up.
Oh, you bet, in the worst ways possible.
Well, thank you again, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
This has been another leadership lesson from Rain's World. If this kind of learning whets your appetite, leaving you wanting for another helping of this kind of content, visit me at getlifeinbalance.com.